Happy Shavuot, everyone. We're so glad that you can join us. We're going to start out with some worship songs, and then we'll go into all the other videos that people sent in and all of their worship times and other things that they sent in. All right, our first song is My Lighthouse. My wrestling and in my doubt, in my failures, you won't walk out. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Oh, you are the peace in my troubled sea. In the silence, you won't let go. In my questions, your truth will hold. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Oh, you are the peace in my troubled sea. My lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. Oh, my lighthouse, I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore. I won't fear what tomorrow brings. With each morning I'll rise and sing. My God's love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Oh, you are the peace in my troubled sea. My lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. Oh, my lighthouse, I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore. Light before us, you're the brightest. You will lead us through the storm. Light before us, you're the brightest. You will lead us through the storm. Hey! Light before us, you're the brightest. You will lead us through the storm. My lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. Oh, my lighthouse, I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore. This next song is called Hallelujah. You heard there is a mystery the prophets wrote for you to see, but you don't understand it, do ya? Well, it goes like this: with a mighty fist, he brought forth his son in our midst. It baffled kings and princes. Hallelujah! 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 blood and hyssop, you'll be clean. He'll wash you so your sins are seen. He will give his ruach to you. Create in you a heart of flesh. Your bones will rise. You'll beat your chest, and from your lips you'll be singing hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Thank you for joining us for Shavuot. I appreciate everyone sending some videos. I know it was short notice. If you'd like to share anything while we continue meeting together virtually, please share it. If you have a song you'd like to share, or a reading, or just a testimony, we would love to hear from you and see your wonderful faces. And we'd appreciate that. I'd like to start off with prayer before I read the passages today. Dear Jehovah, thank you for this day of Shavuot that you've set aside to meet with us. We thank you for all you've done in our lives, and we just ask that as we read from your word, we can take something from it and apply it to our lives. Amen. I'm going to be starting the reading from John 4, verses 5 through 26. We came to a city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near the plot of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Now Jacob's well was there. Yeshua, therefore, being wearied from his journey, sat thus by the well. It was about the 6th hour. A woman of Samaria came to draw water. Yeshua said to her, "Give me a drink," for his disciples had gone away into the city to buy food. Then the woman of Samaria said to him, "How is it that you, being a Jew, ask a drink from me, a Samaritan woman? For Jews have no dealings with Samaritans." Yeshua answered and said to her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is who says to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." The woman said to him, "Sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where then do you get that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as well as his sons and his livestock?" Yeshua answered and said to her, "Whoever drinks of this water will thirst again, but whoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. But the water that I shall give him will become in him a fountain of water springing up into everlasting life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water that I may not thirst, nor come here to draw." Yeshua said to her, "Go call your husband and come here." The woman answered and said, "I have no husband." Yeshua said to her, "You have well said, 'I have no husband,' for you have had 5 husbands, and the one whom you now have is not your husband, and that you spoke truly." The woman said to him, "Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on the mountain, and you Jews say that in Jerusalem is the place where one ought to worship." Yeshua said to her, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you will neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. You know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. But the hour is coming, and now is when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father is seeking such to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth." The woman said to him, "I know that Messiah is coming, who is called Christ. When he comes, he will tell us all things." Yeshua said to her, "I who speak to you am he." This story comes right before Yeshua and his disciples head to Jerusalem for Shavuot. I think it's very telling of him to say, "Worship in spirit and truth" at this time of year. I'd like to share some thoughts about that, and we'll turn to Exodus 19, 1, 2, and 1, verses 1 and 2, and verses 16 through 20. In the 3rd month, after the children of Israel had gone out of the land of Egypt, on the same day they came to the wilderness of Sinai, for they had departed from Rephidim, had come to the wilderness of Sinai, and camped in the wilderness. So Israel camped there before the mountain. Then it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there was thunderings and lightnings and a thick cloud on the mountain, and the sound of the trumpet was very loud, so that all the people who were in the camp trembled. And Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. Now Mount Sinai was completely in smoke, because Jehovah descended upon it in fire. Its smoke ascended like the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain quaked greatly. And when the blast of the trumpet sounded long and became louder and louder, Moses spoke, and God answered him by voice. Then Jehovah came down upon Mount Sinai on top of the mountain, and Jehovah called Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up. After this is when Jehovah gives Moses the 10 Commandments. And when we see in the third month, we know that this is around the time of Shavuot. So when Jehovah gave the 10 Commandments was near or on Shavuot. So there we can see the truth given to his people. And now we can turn to Acts. Acts 2, 1 through 4. When the day of Pentecost had fully come, they were all with one accord in one place, and suddenly there came a sound from heaven, as a rushing of mighty wind, and it filled the whole house where they were sitting. Then they appeared to them, divided tongues as of fire, and one sat upon each of them, and they each were filled with the Holy Spirit, and began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. When we see the day of Pentecost, that is Shavuot. So we see here the two items brought together, and Yeshua telling the story at the same time of year of Spirit and truth. In the second story, we see the Spirit is descended upon the people. That's what I'd like to share today, and I hope everyone has a great day and enjoys all the other goings on of today. And just remember that He is with you, and He wants you to worship Him in spirit and in truth. Shalom.
Of to reign with the Son. Is he worthy? Is he worthy of all blessing and honor and glory? Is he worthy? Is he worthy? Is he worthy of this? Yes, yes. Is he worthy? Is he worthy? Yes, yes. He is worthy. He is worthy. Yes. God loves me. I know he does. God loves me. I know he does. God loves me. I know he does. I clap with my hands, stomp with my feet, put my faith in Christ. Boom! He came into my life. Woo! 'Cause the Bible tells me so. Yeshua's never sinned, but I have. Yeshua never sinned, but I have. Yeshua never sinned, but I have. I clap with my hands, stomp with my feet, put my faith in Christ. Boom! He came into my life. Woo! 'Cause the Bible tells me so. Yeshua died for me, and now he lives. Yeshua died for me, and now he lives. Yeshua died for me, and now he lives. I clap with my hands, stomp with my feet, put my faith in Christ. Boom! Came into my life. Woo! 'Cause the Bible tells me so. I can live for him. Oh yes I can. I can live for him. Oh yes I can. I can live for him. Oh yes I can. I clap with my hands, stomp with my feet, put my faith in Christ. Boom! He came into my life. Woo! 'Cause the Bible tells me so.
Oh, Jerusalem, how the enemy besets you, your walls are broken down, and they lie and ruin about you, and the praises of our God and King no longer rise. And the heathen mock your holy name because of us. Oh, Jerusalem, that I might rebuild your temple and restore again. In my Father's house is worship, that the nations of this earth shall see and shall be glad, that the Lord our God, the mighty King, Jehovah reigns. In my spirit, Lord, you have placed a zeal for Zion, and to see restored on the earth your holy kingdom. Let it come, and may your love so burn within my heart, till you come in glory. let it come, and may your love so burn within my heart, till you come in glory to receive your bride and King. Let it come, 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 and may your love so burn within my heart, till you come in glory to receive your bride and reign. Over all the earth you reign on high, every mountain stream, every sunset sky. But my one request, Lord, my only aim, is that you reign in me again. Lord, reign in me, reign in your power over all my dreams. In my darkest hour, you are the Lord of all I am. So won't you reign in me again? Over every thought, over every word, may my life reflect the beauty of my Lord. You mean more to me than any earthly thing. So won't you reign in me again? Lord, reign in me, reign in your power over all my dreams. In my darkest hour, you are the Lord of all I am. So won't you reign in me again? Lord, reign in me, reign in your power over all my dreams. In my darkest hour, you are the Lord of all I am. So won't you reign in me again? Won't you reign in me again? Oh, won't you reign in me again? The law of Jehovah is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of Jehovah is sure, making wise the simple. More to be desired are they than gold, and much fine gold, sweeter also than honey, and the honeycomb. The statutes of Jehovah are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandments of Jehovah are pure, enlightening the eyes. More to be desired are they than gold, and much fine gold, sweeter also than honey, and the The fear of Jehovah is clean, and tired are they then cold, yea, then much find cold. Sweeter also than honey, and the honeycomb. Moreover, by them is your servant warned, is your servant warned, and in keeping of them there is great reward.
Obedience is the very best way to show that you believe. Doing exactly as the Lord commands, doing it happily. Action is the key to immediately joy you will receive. Obedience is the very best way to show that you believe. Obedience. Obedience is the very best way to show that you believe.
Today, we're celebrating Shavuot, and I'm going to tell you some stories about Shavuot. Shavuot is one of God's set-apart holy days, and it is a special one. He has 3 set-apart days that he requires his people to travel to the temple to make offering and sacrifice. But right now, there is no temple, so we cannot make that pilgrimage. Those 3 sacrifices that are required, we call first fruits offerings. That's one of the other names of Shavuot. It's called Day of First Fruits, Yom HaBilkurim. I think I said that right. I don't know. Another day of Shavuot is Hag HaKasur, Feast of Harvest. I don't know if I said that right either. And Shavuot means Feast of Weeks. Some people call Shavuot Pentecost, which means 50. The reason they call it that is it takes 50 days from the first fruits of Passover to the first fruits of Shavuot. The reason we call it Feast of Weeks, Shavuot, is because that's 7 weeks. So there's why these are called that. Shavuot is found in the book of Leviticus 23. It's found in other places as well. But all God's holy feasts are found in Leviticus chapter 23. So that's usually the first place we go to look for them. Today I'm going to tell you 2 stories. The first one, it is believed, happened on Shavuot even before Jehovah God gave us a commandment for Shavuot. As I tell you these stories, whenever you hear a word that sounds like something you could make a big sound for, like thunder, I want you to make it sound like thunder. Can you make it sound like thunder?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you make it sound like rain? Oh, can you make a sound like a tiger? Can you make a sound like an earthquake?
There'd be a lot of wind.
Okay, can you make it sound like a rushing wind? Oh, you guys are ready. You're ready. So, this first story that I'm going to tell you is found in the book of Exodus, chapter 20. It's found in Deuteronomy as well, but we're going to look at Exodus. And it is believed that this was on the day that is called Shavuot. Now, there were these people that lived in the land of Egypt. Their names were the Israelites. And they were becoming a great and mighty people. And the king of Egypt, called a Pharaoh, was starting to worry. And he was afraid that these Israelites would try to take over his kingdom. So he made them his slaves, and he worked them really hard. So hard that they began to cry. And they cried and cried out to Jehovah God, and Jehovah God heard them. And he went and found a man named Moses and told him to go and help free the Israelites from slavery. So Moses went and he got the people and he took them out to the wilderness. Now, does that sound like a great place? Would you like to go live in the wilderness?
No.
It kind of sounds like a scary place to me. The wilderness is like the desert, or the land where nothing grows. It's just kind of dry and nothing grows there. Well, that's where he took them. And when they were out in the wilderness, they went to a mountain called Mount Sinai. And while they were at Mount Sinai, Jehovah told Moses that he wanted to come down and speak to the people. So Moses told the people to take a bath and get all cleaned up, because in 3 days, Jehovah would be coming to speak to them. So they did. They got all washed up. And as soon as they were all washed up and ready, and all stood away from the mountain, all of a sudden, trumpets blasted. And thunder rolled. And the mountain shaked. And fire came down. And a cloud came down. And a voice from heaven bellowed, "I am Jehovah your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Obey me so that all will go well with you." And all the people shouted back, "We will do whatever you command." Say that.
We will do whatever you command.
They had no idea what God was going to command, but they agreed to do it because they were so afraid of this mighty God who could do these things, and who had rescued them and brought them out of the land of Egypt. And so God gave them the 10 Commandments that day. He said, don't worship any other God. Don't make any idols and worship them or bow down to them. Don't use my name recklessly. He said, work 6 days and rest on the Sabbath. Obey your parents. Don't murder. He said, love your wife alone and do not love anyone else's wife.
That's called don't commit adultery.
Yes, it's called don't commit adultery. He said, don't steal what doesn't belong to you. And don't tell lies about people to get them into trouble. Don't want what other people have. And God gave them the 10 Commandments that day. And many people believe that that was indeed the day of Shavuot. Now there's another story in the Bible, in the New Testament, of something that we know happened on a Shavuot. Often people call this the day of Pentecost, especially this story. So the disciples had all gathered together in one place. This was after Yeshua, our Messiah, had ascended. That means he went up in the sky into the clouds and he disappeared and went to be in heaven with Jehovah God. This was after he had died and rose again and had spent some time with the disciples. Before he left, he told the disciples, I will send a helper, so wait for the helper. And the disciples were all gathered together in Jerusalem because it was Shavuot and they were waiting for the helper to come. While they were waiting, all of a sudden they heard a loud noise. It was a sound of gushing wind. The sound filled the whole place. And when they looked around, they saw little flames of fire on each of the others' heads. And this was the Holy Spirit who had filled the place and had come to fill the disciples. And as the Holy Spirit came upon them, their new helper, all of a sudden they all began speaking at once. And some were speaking in other languages. And people outside could hear the loud noise. And they wondered what it was, and they came to see. And they all were wondering loudly. Everyone was talking at once. People were talking in all different languages loudly. And all the people wondered, how in the world is it that I can hear these people in my own language, even though they are not from my country? And Peter knew they were all wondering what was happening. And he said, listen, Yeshua, who died and rose again, he is the Messiah. He is the promised one. And he preached the kingdom of Yeshua. The kingdom of Jehovah. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. And Peter preached to those people that day. And 3,000 more people believed and became disciples of Yeshua that day. And many believed that was in fact, we know that was indeed the day of Shavuot. So as we celebrate today, Shavuot, we can be anticipating God giving us a message. Maybe not the Ten Commandments, maybe not allowing us to speak in foreign languages, but today we can ask Him to show us what message or blessing He has for us this day, Shavuot.